My wife secretly had an affair with my best friend, then convinced me to sign over our $250, $0 family house to her during a heated divorce, only to find out she's now claiming I owe her $150, $0 in hidden debt. I feel like I've lost everything to her manipulation. I never thought I'd find myself in a situation like this, especially not with someone I trusted so completely. The most shocking thing was how quickly everything unraveled, like a house of cards collapsing in a gust of wind. It all started with little things, signs that I didn't want to see at first. My wife Emma had always been a bit bitchy, but lately she'd been colder, more distant. She'd brush off my questions, give me fake smiles, and snap at me over the smallest things. I chalked it up to stress, work, life, maybe her period. But deep down, I knew something was off. It began a few months ago when I started noticing her hiding her phone more than usual. She'd leave it face down, even when she was in the shower. Sometimes she'd get texts late at night that she quickly deleted. I'd catch her in little lies, saying she was at a friend's house, then catching her sneaking out with her phone in hand. But what really made me suspicious was the way she started acting around her best friend, Lisa. They'd spend hours giggling and whispering, and I saw the looks they exchanged. I didn't want to admit it, but I felt like I was losing her. One day, I decided to check her phone when she was in the shower. I know, snooping isn't great, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was going on. I found messages, flirty, suggestive texts with Lisa, talking about meeting up late at night, about how they couldn't keep this a secret much longer. My stomach dropped. I saw pictures Emma and Lisa together in bed, laughing, touching each other. I couldn't believe it. My wife was cheating on me with my best friend. My mind was racing. How long had this been going on? How had I missed all the signs? I felt numb, like I'd been punched in the gut. I wanted to scream, to yell, but I just sat there, stunned. I kept thinking about all the moments we shared, our wedding, the holidays, the quiet nights at home. And now I was faced with the reality that she'd been lying to my face the whole time. I didn't know whether to feel betrayed, angry, or just devastated. I knew I had to confront her, but I also knew the truth was going to shatter everything I thought I knew about her and about us. That night I waited until she came home. I was trembling, heart pounding so hard I thought it might burst out of my chest. When she walked through the door, I could see the defiance in her eyes. I didn't even waste time, just showed her the messages on my phone. Her face went pale for a second, then she tried to brush it off, calling it stupid jokes and nothing serious. But I wasn't buying it. I told her I knew everything, that I had proof. Her reaction was a mix of anger and denial, like she thought she could just lie her way out of it. She called me paranoid, crazy even, and tried to turn it around on me, saying I was suspicious because I was insecure. But I knew better. The worst part wasn't just the betrayal, it was how easily she lied, how she played the victim while I was left to pick up the pieces. I felt sick, like my whole world was crashing down around me. I loved her, or at least I thought I did. Now I wasn't so sure. I started thinking about everything, our house, the money, the life we built. And I realized I had to do something. I couldn't let her get away with this. I had to make her pay. That's when I started planning my revenge, even if I didn't know exactly what that looked like yet. All I knew was that I wasn't going to let her walk all over me, not anymore. After that night, everything changed. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. The image of her and Lisa together haunted me. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw their faces, their sneaky smiles, the way Emma looked at her like she was the only person in the world. I felt a mix of rage and heartbreak, like I'd been punched in the gut and left to bleed out. I knew I had to act carefully, though. I couldn't just lash out blindly. She was manipulative, cunning. I had to get ahead of her, figure out her next move before she could spin her stories or twist the truth to her favor. In the days that followed, I started digging into her finances. I needed to understand how much she was hiding, what she was capable of. Emma had always been secretive about money. She'd hide receipts, lie about expenses, and insist we never fought over money. But I was determined to find out the truth. I pulled bank statements, looked into her credit cards, and discovered she'd been secretly siphoning money from joint accounts. Small amounts at first, $200 here, $300 there. But it added up. I also found out she'd been taking out loans in my name, claiming she needed funds for emergencies. It was clear she'd been planning her escape for a while. She'd been convincing me to sign over our house, the one we'd worked so hard for, under the pretext that we needed to split everything evenly. She kept telling me how fair she was being, how I should trust her. I remember sitting at the table, exhausted, feeling like I was losing my mind. She'd cry, say she loved me, that she'd never do anything to hurt me, but I saw right through her. She was cold, calculating, and she knew exactly what she was doing. One evening, she sat me down and brought up the house. She said, "Look, I think it's only fair that I get the house. You're not really using it, and I need a place to start fresh." Her tone was sweet, but I could hear the steel behind her words. I told her I wasn't signing anything until I knew the full truth. She scoffed, acting like I was being paranoid again. That's when I realized she was trying to push me into a corner, to make me feel guilty so I'd give her what she wanted without question. But I wasn't about to let her manipulate me. I decided I needed legal advice. I contacted a lawyer, and that's when I learned some shocking facts. Emma had been secretly planning her move for months, and she'd been lying to me about her intentions. She'd already started looking at apartments, talking about getting her own place, and even had a fake job interview scheduled. The lawyer told me I could challenge the house transfer, especially since it was signed under duress. That's when I realized she'd been playing me from the start, convincing me to give her the house while she was secretly plotting her escape. I felt betrayed all over again. How could she do this? How could she lie so easily, manipulate me so thoroughly? Meanwhile, Emma kept up her act, acting like the victim, crying, saying I was overreacting, accusing me of being paranoid. She told me I was jealous of her friendship with Lisa, that I was reading too much into innocent conversations. But I knew better. I'd seen the texts, the photos. I'd seen her sneaking around, lying to my face. The more she lied, the more I realized I was dealing with a master manipulator. She was good at twisting things, making herself look innocent while I was left feeling like the guilty one. I started questioning everything, my own judgment, our entire relationship. But I wasn't going to let her get away with it. I had proof now, and I had the law on my side. I decided I'd fight her for the house, for my dignity, and for my peace of mind. I knew this wasn't just about money. It was about standing up to her, about reclaiming what was mine. I started documenting everything, her lies, her secret bank accounts, her plans. I refused to be the fool she thought I was. I was angry, yes, but I also felt determined. She might think she's the clever one, but I was about to turn the tables. I didn't know exactly how, but I knew I'd find a way to make her regret everything she'd done. Over the next few weeks, I became obsessed with uncovering everything about Emma's plans. I stayed up nights going through her emails, her social media accounts, anything I could get my hands on. Every new piece of information made my blood boil. She'd been talking to lawyers, real estate agents, even secretly meeting with someone about her future. I found receipts for deposits on a new apartment, fake texts she'd been sending herself to make it look like she was still unsure, still hesitant. It was like watching a spider weave her web, and I was the fly caught right in the middle. One day, I decided enough was enough. I couldn't just sit around and wait for her to slip up again. I had to take control. I called my lawyer, Lisa, and told her everything I'd found. We drafted a legal challenge to the house transfer, and I also started preparing to file for divorce. I knew Emma would fight tooth and nail, but I was determined to get what was fair and to expose her lies. I also told Lisa to dig into Emma's financial records further. If she was hiding money or assets, I wanted to find it all. Meanwhile, Emma kept up her act. She'd come home, put on the fake tears, and accuse me of destroying her life. She said I was paranoid, that I was just jealous of her friendship with Lisa, that I was crazy for suspecting her of cheating. She spun stories about how she was a victim, of my distrust, of my control. Her bitchy attitude only intensified. Every time I tried to confront her, she'd turn it around, gaslighting me into doubting my own instincts. I started feeling like I was losing my mind. Was I just overreacting? Was I the bad guy here? Things escalated when I discovered she'd been secretly withdrawing money from our joint account, more than I thought. It was enough to buy a small condo downtown. She was planning her escape, no doubt about it. I also found out she'd been talking to a guy named Mark, a real estate agent, about renting a place. I couldn't believe how far she'd gone. She'd been so convincing, so manipulative. She even told her friends I was overreacting, that I was jealous and insecure, just like she'd said the night I confronted her with the proof. It hit me hard. She'd lied to everyone. She'd been painting herself as the victim while secretly planning her new life. I felt angry, betrayed, humiliated. I thought about all the years we'd spent together, all the plans we'd made, and how she'd thrown them away for some affair and a quick escape. I started questioning everything. Was she ever really in love with me? Was I just some placeholder in her life? The pain was real, but I also knew I couldn't let her keep pulling the strings. I had to fight for what was mine. I made one last effort to talk to her, to get her to come clean. I sat her down, looked her straight in the eyes, and told her I knew everything. The affair, the lies, the money she was hiding. I told her I'd fight her in court, that I'd expose her and her manipulations. Her face twisted into a sneer and she spat. "You're just jealous because I don't want to be married to someone who's so insecure." That was her favorite line: blame me, make me feel guilty. But I wasn't buying it anymore. I was done playing her game. That night I sat alone in what used to be our living room, feeling the weight of it all. I'd lost my trust, my peace, maybe even my sense of reality. The betrayal cut deep. I realized that Emma had been a master manipulator from the start, convincing me to give her the house, to sign away our life savings, all while secretly planning her escape. I knew she'd never really loved me, only what I could give her, what I could do for her. And now I was left with nothing but the bitter truth, the cold reality that I'd been played. But I also knew I had to stand tall. I wasn't going down without a fight. I had to reclaim what was mine, no matter what it took. The legal fight was a roller coaster. It took every ounce of patience I had, and honestly, it drained me emotionally and financially. Emma didn't go down without a fight either. She hired her own lawyer, some slick, manipulative woman named Susan, who tried every trick in the book to delay, deny, and spin things in her favor. Emma kept claiming she was the victim, that I was trying to ruin her life, that she deserved the house because she worked so hard for it. She even started asserting that I owed her $150, $0 in hidden debt she'd uncovered, which was a blatant lie, but it threw me off for a while. I knew from the start that her claiming I owed her money was just her way of trying to turn the tables. She'd hidden money, taken out loans in my name. She'd lied about everything to cover her tracks. But the more I dug, the more I uncovered her scheme. She'd been funneling money into secret accounts, buying expensive designer clothes, and paying for her new apartment with the cash she'd stolen from us. I had proof, bank statements, transaction records, even her own emails. The problem was, Emma was a master at gaslighting, and she used her charm and bitchy attitude to sway everyone around her, including the judge. The worst part was watching her manipulate the situation, twisting everything to her advantage. She'd cry, act innocent, and accuse me of being a controlling husband who just didn't understand her needs. She told the court I was abusive, that I was trying to keep her from her freedom, which was total garbage. I felt sick hearing her spin her lies, knowing what she was capable of. I kept thinking about the nights I spent working late, trying to build a future, and how she was secretly planning her escape all along. Meanwhile, I had to stay strong. I kept detailed records of everything: texts, emails, financial transactions. I even recorded some of her conversations, just in case I needed proof. I knew she was planning to claim I was abusive or unstable, so I made sure I kept my cool, stayed professional, and didn't give her any reason to paint me as the villain. It was exhausting, but I knew I had to outsmart her. One day, she made a critical mistake. She left her phone unlocked at our house, and I found a series of texts from Mark, the real estate guy, discussing the best way to make the house look like it's worth less so she could get a better deal. I took screenshots and sent them to my lawyer. That was the smoking gun I needed. Emma's entire plan was crumbling, and she didn't even realize it. Her face went pale when she saw I'd found out, but she quickly recovered and started spinning new lies, claiming I was stalking her and trying to ruin her reputation. It was infuriating. I felt like I was fighting a losing battle, but I also knew I had the truth on my side. I couldn't let her manipulate her way out of this. I had to stay focused, stay patient, and keep pushing forward. I made it clear to the court that Emma was trying to cheat me out of our assets and that her claims of debt were fabricated. I also demanded the house be returned to the original ownership, and I was prepared to go to trial if necessary. I knew she'd try to drag it out, but I wasn't going to give her that victory. It was during this chaos that I realized something. I was stronger than I thought. Even though I felt betrayed, humiliated, and exhausted, I had the truth on my side. Emma's manipulations were starting to unravel, and I could see her losing her grip on the situation. The more she lied, the more her lies exposed her. I felt a strange mix of satisfaction and anger. Satisfaction that I was fighting back, anger that I'd been played so badly for so long. But I was determined to see this through. I wasn't going to let her walk away with everything she wanted, especially not after everything she'd done. Every day, I reminded myself why I was fighting, for my dignity, for my future, for the truth. I knew this wasn't over yet, but I also knew I had a shot at turning things around. Emma might have thought she could manipulate me into giving her what she wanted, but I was learning how to fight back, how to stand my ground, expose her lies, and reclaim what was rightfully mine. The court hearings dragged on longer than I expected. Emma and her lawyer, Susan, kept pulling every stunt in the book, delaying tactics, false accusations, even trying to claim I was mentally unstable. Honestly, it was like fighting a snake. Every time I thought I had the upper hand, she'd twist the situation to make me look bad. But I stayed steady, knowing that my evidence was solid. I had the bank statements, the texts, the recordings. I was prepared for a fight and I wasn't backing down. One day, during a particularly heated session, Emma snapped. She sat across from me, her bitchy face twisted with rage, and she started shouting about how I was trying to destroy her, how I was a jealous, insecure husband, and how she deserved the house because she worked so hard. It was sickening to see her play the victim so convincingly, but I also saw right through her. I knew her game. She was trying to sway the judge with tears and lies, but I had enough proof to counter every claim. My lawyer, Lisa, presented everything, her financial secrets, the fake debts, the texts from Mark. We showed how she'd been secretly planning her escape for months, how she'd stolen from us, and how her claim to the house was based on lies. The judge listened carefully, and I could see the wheels turning. Finally, after hours of back and forth, the judge made a ruling. The house would be returned to the original ownership, and Emma was ordered to pay back the stolen funds plus damages. It was a huge win, but I knew she'd be furious, and this wasn't the end of her tricks. Emma's face twisted with fury when she heard the verdict. She stormed out of the courtroom, screaming about how I was trying to ruin her life, how she'd fight this to the end, and that she'd make sure I paid for this. I felt a strange mixture of relief and dread. Relief because I'd finally gotten some justice, but dread because I knew Emma was capable of anything. She'd already proven she could be manipulative and ruthless. In the aftermath, I started moving forward. I filed for divorce officially, and I made sure the house was legally mine again. I also took steps to protect myself, changing locks, blocking her from accessing any joint accounts, and making sure she couldn't manipulate me or the courts anymore. But the emotional toll was heavy. I'd spent so long trusting her, loving her, and believing in our life together. Now I felt like I barely knew the woman I married. The betrayal cut so deep, it was hard to imagine ever feeling normal again. I also realized something about myself, how much I'd let her manipulate me into doubt, how I'd ignored the signs because I didn't want to believe she'd do something so terrible. But I learned that sometimes you have to stand up, even if it means tearing everything apart. You have to face the truth, no matter how ugly it is. I also learned that money and trust are fragile things. Once broken, they're hard to fix. Emma's lies cost us everything, and it's a lesson I won't forget. Looking back now, I see how much I've grown through this ordeal. I still feel the sting of betrayal, but I also feel stronger for having fought back. I want anyone reading this to know, don't ignore the signs. If something feels off, dig deeper. Trust your gut. And if you're faced with someone manipulating you or lying, stand your ground. Sometimes you have to lose everything to realize your own strength. I'm still healing, but I know I'll come out of this better, more cautious, more aware, and finally ready to move on. Now looking back, I realize how much I underestimated her. Emma's manipulations ran deep, and she played the victim perfectly, crying, lying, twisting every situation to her advantage. But ultimately, her lies caught up with her. The court saw through her games, and I managed to reclaim what was mine: our house, our assets, my sense of sanity. Still, the scars remain. Trust is hard to rebuild after betrayal like that, and I've come to understand that sometimes love isn't enough to keep a relationship afloat if there's manipulation and deception lurking beneath. One thing I've learned through all this is that you can't ignore the signs, no matter how small they seem. Emma's bitchy attitude, her secretive behavior, the lies about money, those were all red flags I brushed aside because I wanted to believe in us. But ignoring those signs only made things worse. If I could go back and do it all over, I'd confront her sooner, dig deeper, and not let her manipulate me so easily. This experience has taught me to be more cautious, more aware of what's really happening around me. Money isn't just about figures and assets. It's about trust, honesty, and respect. When those things are broken, everything else crumbles. I also learned that standing up for yourself is crucial. Sometimes you have to fight dirty, play the game smarter, and expose the lies before they destroy you. To anyone who might be going through something similar, my advice is simple: trust your instincts. Don't dismiss the little signs of manipulation or dishonesty. Document everything. Get legal help early if you suspect foul play. And most importantly, don't let someone else's lies define you or your future. You're stronger than you think, and even if you feel like you're losing everything, there's always a way to reclaim your life. I don't regret fighting for what's rightfully mine, even if it cost me emotionally. It's a painful lesson, but a necessary one. Now, I'm focusing on rebuilding myself, learning to trust again, and making sure I never let someone manipulate me like that again. The betrayal hurt, but it also set me free. I've learned that sometimes losing everything is the only way to truly find yourself. And I'm finally on my way to doing just that, moving forward stronger and wiser than I ever was before.